Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealers Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I am heavily caffeinated today, and I am joined by Harm and Dal. Harm, what material is that jacket? I was going to ask you, but you joined right before we went live, so I have to ask you live.
It's a silky material. Grabbed it
I
a couple
thought it
years
was silky.
ago. I grabbed it a couple years ago from Forever 21 right before it closed down.
Okay, so I was expecting you to be like, I bought this one in New York, because when you wear those, and we have Mizey Glazer in the chat who said Harm's jacket is drip. Usually when I point out one of your jackets, because I do really, really like your jackets that you have, usually you're like, oh, I bought this in Nashville, or I bought this in New York, or whatever. Just Forever 21, I like it. I didn't realize Forever 21 closed. But anyways, all right, good to know. All right, we're here. We're here to talk about a couple Canucks victories. Canucks willing their way. That's the title of today's show. Willing their way to 3 of 4 points. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to be joined by the newest member of the Canucks Army team. If you were on social media, you will know who I'm talking about, but we'll save the surprise if you don't know who I'm talking about. But before all of that, I want to get to a super chat because we got one right off the hop. It is from Noah VCR. He said, can we talk about how good Tom Willander has really been? Did anyone expect this to happen this early? Harm, we kept saying it at training camp. Tom Willander's going to need some time in the AHL. The big question we had was, can he take an Elias Pettersson-like step where he goes down to the AHL, looks out of place a bit at training camp, goes down to the AHL, and looks so much better when he gets there? He has been far better than I expected, especially when you talk about the specific holes that were in his game. He's really starting to put those together, especially the stuff with puck retrievals.
Yeah, when I watched him in the NCAA, I thought he could make this kind of impact, but I thought, if anything, it would be a best case scenario type of thing in the second half of the season. And especially when we saw him at training camp and preseason, that's when I went, oh, maybe I've got to recalibrate my expectations. He doesn't look like he's ready to make that immediate impact. And so then my expectations were lowered even further. And again, just thinking, all right, best case scenario is he's contributing down the stretch and doesn't look out of place. But to have him, after just a handful of American League games, forced into the lineup due to all the rash of injuries that they had on the back end, and not just hold his own, but winning his minutes at 5-on-5 in a role further down the lineup is a really positive development for this Canucks team. And it's also nice that the coaching staff hasn't been forced to play him with a veteran. They've been able to rely on, when they want to have shifts with DPD and Willander together, you can trust them. You don't feel too nervous with them out on the ice, which I don't know you could say for a lot of teams around the NHL, is having two defensemen that are this young out there together on the ice on the same deep pairing. And don't get me wrong, there are still some moments when they look a little raw. I think back to the game against the Jets almost a week ago, where one play in the second period, DPD loses the battle down low, and then as the play continues, Lowry just outmuscles Willander in front of the net, and goal goes in off Lowry's skate. You're gonna have learning moments like that, but overall, I've been impressed by Willander's early impact.
All right, if you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. All right, it's the title of today's show. Canucks willing their way to 3 of 4 points. And people in the chat immediately, where'd it go? Broke Shinobi, regular listener of the show and viewer of the show, said it could have been 4 for 4. Yeah, that game against the Carolina Hurricanes, Harm, they were just hanging on for dear life in overtime. And hey, it's a great strategy to just try to get it to a shootout when you've got Kevin Lankinen, who statistically is one of the best shootout goalies of all time. Let's start with Kevin Lankinen. He was phenomenal in both games. And Tyson Cole wrote about this. He talked to Kevin Lankinen about this. Lankinen just, and you can go read that, CanucksArmy.com. Lankinen just seems to find another gear and another level to his game when he knows he's got to be the guy. As soon as Thatcher Demko went down, the big thing was, oh my gosh, well, Kevin Lankinen is not playing the best hockey of his career right now like he was at this time last year. Can he get it back? He's been phenomenal throughout these past few games. And when he's the guy, he just seems to raise it up another level. I tweeted this on the weekend, but the 94 shot attempts that the Canucks gave up on Friday versus Carolina ties a franchise record. Happened 3 times before. Canes were all over them that game. Lankinen was good. And it was a similar thing Sunday in Tampa as well, where Lankinen just kind of holds them in it just long enough for them to will their way to, well, on Sunday, 2 points, but on Friday, just getting the game to overtime felt like a massive victory for this Canucks team that, again, we've talked about it, banged up, overmatched is the other thing. Like, just, you're banged up, you're missing penalty killers, but at the end of the day, like, Max Sassen's their second line forward or second line center. Like, they're overmatched just when you stack them up against other teams around the league. There's so much to get to when it comes to these games, but I think Kevin Lankinen's a good place to start for me.
Yeah, he's individually played 5 games in just the last nine days, which is a significant workload for any goaltender, let alone a 1B. And in that time, the Canucks have only had 1 regulation loss. He's been a massive reason why they've been able to eke points out in games where they have otherwise been outplayed. In that stretch of 5 games, he saved nearly 4 goals above expected. And it's not just the numbers, how well he's playing. Look at the slate of opponents he's gone up against over the last 9 days or so. You've had the Colorado Avalanche, the highest scoring team in the NHL. The Carolina Hurricanes, the second highest scoring team in the NHL this year. You had the Jets game where Lankinen had to come in the middle of that. That's when they lost. The Jets are 12th in the league in goals scored per game. And then even the 2 teams this year that haven't piled up a ton of goals, they're still clubs we look at as high-octane offensive teams in the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning, they're missing some guys now and haven't been off to the best start. But we know the Lightning are an elite offensive team. And then the Blue Jackets as well haven't had the results goals-wise, but watching them play this year, you can still see that they generate shots and chances in bunches. They were such a prolific offensive team last year. So it's not just, oh, he's carrying them to points against teams that don't have lots of offensive firepower. He's doing it against some elite talent. And the big question now is, we know Lankinen, because of last year, has proven that he can carry this team for stretches. It's just a matter of how long until he gets a breather workload-wise. That's the only question mark for me, because we saw for Lankinen last year as well. He was stupendous for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season. Then he had a bit of a fall off where he was closer to average. And then we saw, from whether you want to pick the time from his January 1st or the Four Nations break, down the stretch is when you could tell the fatigue was catching up to him. He's playing through a knock, and that's when his play started to slip. And that's where, when we have these conversations about Thatcher Demko's potential return, I've shared my concern that with Demko coming back, it's not just the timeline, but can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
But for Kevin Lankinen, even if Demko comes back for a short stretch and gives you a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, where Lankinen doesn't have to play 70 to 80% of the games, that is still enough for Lankinen to get valuable breathing room time. So now you're almost thinking of Demko's return, not just from his personal journey standpoint, but from well, at some point, Lankinen's going to need a breather in order to sustain this brilliant level of play.
Lankinen gets that breather tonight. Yuri Patera, baby. He's starting in goal for the Vancouver Canucks. Dan Murphy tweeting that out. We'll do more of our game preview stuff for tonight. In anyone else, we'll get to that later. We have so much to talk about, so many questions in the chat. And I also want to bring in our newest member of Canucks Army in just a moment here. But yeah, Yuri Patera starts tonight. First start in 601 days, I think, was what Batch tweeted out. So 601 days is for since his last NHL start for Yuri Patera. It's been a long road. Again, we told the Yuri Patera story at camp. I was talking to him at training camp about how hard it's been. Didn't even get into a scrimmage. Didn't get into a preseason game. Like, that is really, really tough for Yuri Patera. But he's played well in Abbotsford this year. Like, that's the part that I think people are missing because they're looking at just the raw stats. But if you listen to this show, you already know this, so I'm not going to go on for it too long. But Dave Hall literally told us last week that Yuri Patera has been really good. He's been the best goalie down in Abbotsford. Now, Abbotsford's been having a tough go of it, but Yuri Patera has been their best goalie. So nothing is perfect in the chat. Said, I'm good, my dude. Excited for a Patera start? Yes, I'm excited for a Patera start. You must be new to the show, but yeah, I'm very excited for a Yuri Patera start.
Man,
All right,
it's
yeah,
how wild is it that we're having this conversation on November 17th, where 2 months ago, around the time of Canucks training camp, you and I were having a conversation of where the hell is Yuri Patera going to play? Is he going to be
yeah.
down in the ECHL? He sounded like a dude that thought there was no future for him within this organization. And 2 months later, he's somehow in a position where he's going to get a start against the Florida Panthers. I mean, who would have seen that coming?
Story of resilience, man. Story of resilience. Hey, clip this, Jacob. Yuri Patera. No added context, just this part. Yuri Patera encapsulates the work ethic, the mood, the vibe of the Canucks. Don't clip that. But yeah,
that was a little underwhelming. I thought you were going to go on
I'll get it right.
A Charles Barkley moment. Have you seen that Charles Barkley clip?
Which one?
It went viral on social media.
There's like 100
years ago. I know, but it's one where Ernie Johnson tells him to like shoot a little promo thing, and he's like 2 words. I think Steve Nash and Chris Paul must see TV, and it's like, and then Ernie goes, that's 6 or 7 words, and then it's just a crazy back and forth. But the point being, you thought Charles was getting ready for a sick promo shoot for an amazing call there, and then it just went off the rails. That's what I thought of when you got me all hyped up for, hey, clip this, and then came out with whatever that was.
Let's bring in Daniel Wagner. Daniel Wagner joins us a courtesy of our friends at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not have to pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 for select drinks, and more. Arcade, bar, street food menu. Greta's a great spot. Make it your spot to watch the next game. 50 West Grover Street is the address. Let the games begin. Daniel Wagner joins us now, the newest member of Canucks Army. Also find him. We said this last week. I don't know if you saw. We were the kids are telling me the term glazing lately. I've learned that that's a new term for me. But we were glazing you last week, Daniel. We were talking about
Quads.
No.
What?
No,
it's a term. You guys don't get it. Me and the kids.
We all do get it.
I think you don't get it.
The problem is we do get it.
Okay, so anyway, what I was saying, Daniel Wagner. The Substack, you can go find it, Pass It to Bulis on Substack. Jacob, don't clip that either. passittobulis.substack.com. But Daniel joining us at Canucks Army. Very, very excited to have you join in the team. Really just walk us through really the last week and how we got to this moment.
Oh boy. How we got to this moment is I lost my job. Which was a bit of a surprise and a bit of a shock. I maybe should have seen it coming, but I did not. And maybe, clip this. Here we go. Vancouver is awesome. Deciding they don't want Canucks coverage anymore is emblematic of maybe where the Canucks are going in this market. Don't clip that.
Clip it, Jacob. Clip it, Jacob. That's the opposite.
Anyways. Yeah, no, you gotta stop. You gotta stop, Quads. So yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind few days. I found out on Thursday that I was no longer going to be covering the Canucks for Vancouver is Awesome. On Friday, I started a Substack, which you can get to at passittobulis.com. And what was really kind of shocking and heartwarming is how many people immediately began subscribing to the Substack. There were so many positive messages. It really was heartwarming. And what really caught me off guard is the people who pledged to pay to subscribe, to become paid subscribers. When I first started getting those messages, the first one I got was from Justin McElroy, and so I was like, oh, that's sweet. And then some more started coming through, and I literally started crying, and it was very, very emotional. So now we're getting to this point though where having the Substack and getting those subscriptions and having people reading my work is awesome, but I'm really excited to also be getting my work out there with Canucks Army. Uh, it's come close a few times in the past. I very nearly was working for Canucks Army several years ago, before some things changed for me work wise. But I'm excited that you're bringing me in as a weekly columnist. I'm thrilled that I'm going to be able to add my voice to what is already a very diverse and very smart group of writers.
We're taking suggestions for column names. Daniel and I were texting a lot today about column names. We've landed on Wagner's Weekly, but like every column at Canucks Army, every weekly feature, we're willing to take new names. If people can come up with a better name, we'll take it. So what can people expect from Wagner's Weekly right now is what I'm calling it.
That's what it's called for now. Yeah, Too Much Dan, I think was one suggestion. I mean, I want to bring my kind of signature voice, my signature analysis. I want to have strong takes on what's happened in the previous week with the Canucks and what's to come. Yeah, I just want to bring that Passataboulos style to Canucks Army on a weekly basis.
And we're so grateful that you're not only starting the Substack, the Canucks Army, you're still tweeting and doing everything. Really great to see you landing on your feet, and we'll be supporting your work at both places. Switching gears to the Canucks, they pick up 3 or 4 points on this weekend, heavily outplayed, but still finding a way through goaltending, through special teams. If we zoom out and look at the Canucks at the 20-game mark now, how do you view what this team is?
It's so hard to say because it feels like they've been a different team on almost a nightly basis or even on a period by period basis.
Yeah.
Like, I know you want that big picture, but I want to zoom in actually on that Lightning game because that first period was awful. One of the worst periods we've seen the Canucks play all season. But one thing that was missed because of that first period, the second and third periods were even in shots, about even in scoring chances. The Canucks obviously outscored the Lightning. That second and third period, they were fine. They were actually pretty good. They got some good luck and some good bounces on the goals, but it was just such a weird shift. And you could even see the players after the game and the coach were talking about in that first intermission, they had a serious conversation saying, what kind of team are we going to be? Who are we as a team? And it seemed to be that really had an effect. Whether that will last, I don't know. But that's why this team is so hard to assess, so hard to judge, because on a period by period basis, they'll be just fine, a good team. They'll be able to hang with any team in the league. And then other periods, they'll just be god awful. One of the worst teams in the NHL. And it's just so hard to know which team you're going to get, not just on a game by game basis, but on a period by period basis.
One thing we have been able to kind of count on lately, Elias Pettersson, the guy's deployment, it's been a topic of conversation. There was someone in the chat, I think they used the word glazing, but we'll gloss over that. Where did it go? I want to read the actual comment because it kind of segues perfectly into the question. Yeah, it was from Conversation, regular listener of the show. He said, when are we going to talk about PD's point pace over the past few weeks? Guy is putting up 23, 24 numbers. I think I saw for the month of November, he's on 105 point pace. With the context of what he's been dealing with in terms of the matchups and the, teams just able to zero in right on him and him be really all of the Canucks offense right now at the top of the lineup. What have you seen from Elias Pettersson? How impressed are you with what we're seeing from him right now?
Well, I think what we've seen all season is kind of what we expect from Pettersson in terms of his defensive commitment. The fact that he's throwing his body in front of shots, just kind of with no regard for life or limb. That commitment to the defensive side has always been there. But I think what has been really positive over the past few games is his willingness to get into areas where he can create scoring chances for himself, not just laying the puck off for other players. He's made, like, all through the season, we've seen him lay the puck off to other players and let them take the shots. The drop passes have kind of been a topic of conversation. Some of those passes have been smart plays. When he's been criticized, there's been times where it's like, no, he actually made the right play in that situation. But I think the best moment we saw against the Lightning was on the power play, where he took the pass from Hughes and he wasn't thinking, who am I going to pass it to? Who am I going to set up for a chance? He was thinking, I'm going to get into the slot. And he stepped around Yanni Gourde right into the slot, created a shot, created a chance, and that led to DeBrusk's power play goal. That moment right there was the moment where I really started to get more optimistic about what Pettersson can do this season, whether he's actually back or not. I don't know if he's going to score at a 100-point pace all for the rest of the season, but that willingness to put himself into a shooting position, to create a chance for himself and not look to let someone else take the shot, that was the most positive moment for me.
Absolutely. On the special teams front, because that's going to be a key ingredient for this team staying afloat, considering how many nights there have been this year where they've been outplayed at 5-on-5. The PK is going to get some reinforcements with David Kampf joining the Canucks. Also, after surrendering an early goal against Carolina, PK was pretty solid over the weekend. Pettersson had a shorthanded goal as well. And the power play cashing in for a pair against Lightning as well. If they can get the power play and PK going plus goaltending, those are going to have to be the key pillars for this Canucks team to weather the storm and keep finding ways to win despite their 5-on-5 form not being the best. When it comes to special teams, the PK and the power play, what's your confidence level that they can operate at a clip that's high enough to keep afloat a team that isn't the best at 5-on-5 right now?
Well, you're absolutely right about 5-on-5. It feels like a lot of times they're just trying to survive. They'll get stuck in the defensive zone and they're just trying to get to the next shift without giving up a goal. And that's not ever where you want to be. You want to be winning those shifts on a regular basis. But in terms of confidence in special teams, I still have no confidence in the penalty kill. I'm hopeful that with the addition of David Kampf, that it'll make a difference. It'll add another center, another face-off man, another player who can fill that role. But the big issue that I've seen is they're giving up so many cross-seam passes, so many backdoor plays. And that seems to be more a matter of systems and reads than it is personnel necessarily. So something has to change there. They have to address those cross-seam passes. They have to address the backdoor plays, or the penalty kill is in trouble, because a goaltender can only do so much when you're constantly giving up chances like that. The power play, I mean, with Hughes back, as long as his shoulder stays in its socket, the power play should be fine. I mean, losing Connor Garland for who knows how long, that will hurt. But I think between Besser, DeBrusk, Pettersson, and Hughes, they should be able to have some success on the power play, especially with the way that they've been willing to be more mobile. They're willing to move Pettersson to the top of the zone, to the left half wall, instead of just having him sit there at the right half wall, never touching the puck. I think that mobility and getting Pettersson more touches with the puck is a really positive development.
Daniel, you're a positive development. Glad to have you here today. Glad to have you on Canucks Army. Wagner's Weekly, the first one drops on Sunday. Can't wait to read it, Daniel. Thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
There he is. Daniel Wagner. Read his work, like I said, passthetobulis.substack.com. And
Slick outro. Slick outro. I'll give you that. I gave you a little bit of crap earlier about that Patera clip this moment, but that was a slick outro.
Thanks, Harm. I appreciate it. Speaking of slick, got any numbers you want to talk about?
I do.
Oh, really?
Courtesy the set of the day, which is a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app, from game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting. So all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. So I wanted to bring up a pair of numbers that encapsulate a couple things. A, that Quinn Hughes is back performing at a borderline MVP level, and the bottom has fallen out on the team's ability to control play in non-Hughes 5-on-5 minutes. In the last 5 games, with Quinn Hughes on the ice, they've controlled 53% of shot attempts. Without him on the ice, they've been out-attempted by 100. 206 to 106 when he's on the bench. Same thing with the expected goals. Last 5 games, Quinn Hughes is on the ice, 54% of expected goals, right? So they're routinely not just out shooting, but controlling the quality of shots and chances as well, generating more than they surrender. Without Quinn on the ice at 5-on-5, though, an absurdly low 31% of expected goals. Also worth mentioning in that span that Quinn Hughes has 10 points in his last 5 games. That's a great, I think, way of summing up this team's play over the last handful of games and a couple of the storylines to keep an eye on from a couple perspectives. A, through the first dozen games or so, we mentioned countless times how uncharacteristically human Hughes had looked and how the early underlying numbers were, oh boy, the Canucks are actually giving up more shots. They're giving up more chances. They're getting outscored with Quinn on the ice. And this team isn't going anywhere until he can put the superhero cape back on. Him putting the superhero cape back on, and not just the last 5 games, but really since returning the lineup from his injury, has been a massive storyline. I think that's a huge positive for this team. But on the other end, the negative, I think, and I know they're still dealing with injuries, but it is concerning to me how poorly the team looks in non-Quinn Hughes minutes, because after the Marcus Pettersson trade, the Filipino coming in down the stretch last year, and I brought those numbers up at the time too, the Canucks from February 1st till the end of the regular season were actually close to break even across the board at 5-on-5 in basically every statistical category. And that was part of the bull case for seeing whether the Canucks could make the playoffs this year was, all right, you know that Hughes is going to give you elite results. If you can hold your own when he's not on the ice at 5-on-5, that's a pathway to making the playoffs. You really haven't been seeing that the last handful of games.
Can you repeat the stat, please? Because Rajcraft said, did Harm say 100? Like, those numbers are, you almost can't believe it. Repeat the stat. Repeat the stat of the day.
Last 5 games, and now, mind you, Quinn missed one of those games, right? So it in there is a full game without Quinn. Last 5 games with Quinn on the ice, Canucks have controlled 53% of shot attempts. So they're creating more than they're giving up. With Quinn either not in the lineup or on the bench at 5-on-5 in these last 5 games, they've been out attempted by 100. 206 for the opponents and 106 for the Canucks, shot attempts wise.
That's crazy.
It's a beating.
Crazy. That's crazy. That is okay. That is concerning. That like, yes, that is concerning. Where did it go? Oh yeah. Also should have mentioned this as well. S. Little Boston pointed this out in our chat, but Quinn named NHL third star of the week by the league with 7 points in 2 games is what they credit him with. And yeah, okay. This is the Quinn you were talking about at the start of the year when you boldly claimed that Quinn was better than Makar. I was right there with you. And then Quinn just had to start the year looking human. This is the Quinn you were talking about.
Absolutely. And you're seeing, and I actually think he's still got another higher level to his game. I think there have still been moments where on zone exits, he isn't as sharp as he can be. I think there's another level for his defensive game to get to, but it's the start of, all right, he's playing like he's the best defenseman in the league again. And seriously, 10 points in his last 5 games. He's starting to, alongside Elias Pettersson and Kevin Lankinen, really put this Canucks team on the back. It's those 3, and then it's the timely contributions from the Sherwoods, the O'Connors, DeBrusque heating up, Brock Besser. Yeah, that was a great storyline too. That's really those are the guys you look to over the last couple of weeks in terms of making a difference for this Canucks team.
We got a super chat. It's from regular listener of the show, Nick Pochek, who donated $5 to the BC Mental Health Foundation. He said, the only thing that hits more consistently than Kiefer Sherwood are Harm's ad reads. You got a lot of love for today's ad read, Harm, and rightfully so. You did a great job. I want to talk about McKenzie MacEachern. I was going to save it for anyone else, but here's my stat of the day. McKenzie MacEachern, 4 points in 5 games. My goodness. Had a 2-goal game last night that was taken away from him, turned into 1 goal, 1 assist, with Linus Karlsson getting the first MacEachern goal, got changed to Linus Karlsson. I tweeted it out, but these are like the most points MacEachern's put up since 2019-20. Then when it was, he broke his goal total of 2020-21, where he scored 1 goal in 21 games with the St. Louis Blues. He broke that last night. Or at least he looked like he broke it last night, but then it was changed to an assist. So now it's just the point total. This is the most points he's put up since he put up 10 points in the 2019-20 season with the St. Louis Blues, where he got 10 points in 51 games. He's now up to 4 points in 5 games. That's a great story. He's putting up more points in the NHL than he is in the AHL this season.
Yeah, and I actually liked his game and thought he was a totally competent bottom 6 option when he was first drawn into the lineup before the recent insertion and before these recent points. He's a big body and he's actually quicker than I expected. Even at training camp, I thought, oh, this guy gets up and down the ice like an NHL player. He's got the size of an NHL player. He was noticeable at times on the forecheck. Ultimately, he is just a replacement level NHL forward, somebody that can give you quality 4th line minutes. You're obviously not thinking or expecting that this point pace is going to last.
That makes one of us.
It just goes to show the whole organizational depth thing where, the Canucks lack needle movers, right? They really lack high-end talent, and you notice it when a Filipino is out of the lineup. But the one thing they have in spades are just players from Abbotsford that you could plug and play on a 4th line and won't hurt you and can once in a while chip in with some decent contributions.
You cannot rebuild when you have McKenzie MacEachern putting up numbers like this.
Quads, you'll be happy to hear. I am technically, it'll be official at 4:00 when the game starts, but I can officially check off another one of your Jacob write it down moments. You said McKenzie MacEachern will play over 5 games this season. When he takes to the ice in Sunrise, Florida tonight, he will play his 6th game in the NHL in only game 21 for the Vancouver Canucks. So, hey, there you go.
Well done.
Hit the gong, Jacob. Hit the gong. Thank you. That's the prediction gong. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to hit it when predictions become right. I actually want to, and I know we're probably spending more time talking about McKenzie MacEachern than any other show in this market, but I do want to talk about kind of his high end, Harm. Because obviously,
do you actually want to talk about his high end?
No, I do. I'm not doing a bit because I like seriously, the guy signs a 2-year contract because I was joking when I said, "Oh, extend McKenzie MacEachern now," all that stuff. Like he signed a 2-year contract, and you should also mention like it's a 2-way contract, but like. What's the most they can get out of McKenzie MacEachern? Like, could he be a real bottom 6 option? I'm not saying, oh, can he go be the next Kiefer Sherwood, the next Joshua? He's not at that tier, but like, can he be a guy who chips in like 10 goals? Can he be Tim Schaller? What we thought Tim Schaller was going to be? Can he be that?
Probably not. He's a great story. Don't get me wrong, but ultimately, he's a 31-year-old forward with 24 points in 128 career games. He's been a career journeyman, and there's nothing about his AHL statistical profile that leaps out to you as, oh, this guy might have untapped upside, right? For a guy like Kiefer Sherwood, and I know you weren't comparing him to Sherwood, but with Sherwood, he at least had the ridiculously elite AHL numbers that made you go, all right, this guy's got some legit offense in his toolkit. He just maybe hasn't had the opportunity. With MacEachern, you look and he's never even been a point per game player at the AHL level. And if you haven't been a point per game player at the AHL level, you top out, in my opinion, as having 4th line at best offense, and not even high end 4th line. I'm talking middle of the pack at most. I would not bank on him having a lot more to show. I mean, you can see it in the previous seasons, right? 23-24, 1 assist in 8 games with the Blues. Year before, 2 assists and in 14 games. Year before, 2 points in 21 games. Year before, 10 points in 51 games. Year before, 5 points in 29 games. I don't think at 31 years old he's somehow rounded a corner. I think he's good as far as getting it on the forecheck, using his speed, but I think offensively he's just getting a couple bounces right now.
Fair enough. Nick Pochek, everyone needs a friend like Harm to tell you the truth when you have crazy ideas. I would argue that people need friends like me too, though, because I throw out the vibes take, and then when Harmon tells me and, backs all his arguments with stats, I just yell, write it down, Jacob, and then sometimes I turn out to be right.
You need both. That's what makes the show great.
You need both. He's the next PDG in the chat. We have the next Radulov in the chat. Yeah.
The next Radulov is crazy.
Big hockey. Harm sleeping on McKenzie. Yeah, I like this. We got a good McKenzie, like an avid McKenzie MacEachern chat.
Can't believe I can't believe that you wanted to have a serious conversation about McKenzie MacEachern's height.
Hey, he's a good story. Give him his flowers.
You know what? Story, but we can appreciate what it is without inflating it into, well, what's his high end ceiling now?
Jacob, book McKenzie MacEachern so Harmon can tell him how much he sucks.
I will say, I don't know. I've seen some people calling him Mac in the chat. Is that his actual nickname, or did someone just come up with that? I kind of like it. Mac. That's not bad.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying that either. Also, it's a hockey nickname. The nickname is actually like
Macker.
Macker.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Macker. Yeah, it's Macker or Mackie. All right, let's get to anyone else. somehow the McKenzie MacEachern segment wasn't anyone else, but let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of Pacific Toyota dealers in the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive up to 72 kilometers on the battery alone, then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower or style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. You can plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down, and it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right, let's start with this one. It is from Karina in the chat, who said, in the summer, you pitched Zegras as a potential center gamble. Would he still be having the same offensive production if the Canucks had traded for him instead of the Flyers? Yeah, Trevor Zegras having quite a nice start to his Philadelphia Flyers career.
Yeah, 19 points in 18 games and doing it on a Flyers team that also doesn't have a lot of talent. It's not as if he's surrounded by stars. He's leading them in points by 5 ahead of Konechny. Michkov still only 9 points in 18 games. Yeah, I still think that he would have been successful here because he's the kind of player that manufactures offense on his own, right? He isn't reliant on others to be the playmaking engine. In Anaheim, for example, those years where he put up 60 points, 65 points, he did it while oftentimes playing with Sonny Milano. He did not have the best cast of line mates. So I still think he would have been a difference maker here. I still think he would have been a driver. Now, it is worth mentioning that Zegras has spent time both center and wing in Philadelphia. Oftentimes he's on a line with Dvorak, where Dvorak sometimes handles the more of the center responsibilities. But man, this team would have loved to have another game breaker. And considering they've been icing Reichel forever at 2C, I mean, yeah, and especially when you factor in the acquisition cost, it was a second round pick, fourth round pick, and then I want to say Ryan. Was it Ryan? Was it Ryan?
I think it was. That's exactly the name I was thinking.
Yeah, so they gave up barely anything in a world where it was so difficult to acquire top 6 players. That's why I liked Zegras as a buy low candidate, and it's at least good for him that it's working out in Philly.
Yeah. There's also the fact you never know if the Ducks would have traded him in division, right? You never know for sure.
I don't think Zegras is that caliber of player that
Mm.
they would have been scared of him haunting them. I think maybe
Especially
we would have
with
to give
what they
him a
had on the
little
way.
bit more.
Yeah.
But the acquisition cost was so low that there were just so few opportunities this past summer where you could look at a young player in their early to mid 20s and go, that guy could be a difference maker, and he's not going to cost an arm and a leg, and he can play the center ice position. Not a perfect player. You know, you're going to have warts in Zegras' game, but also him having multiple years of 60+ point production at the age that he was, plus the Greg Cronin effect. I mean, how often was I saying, well, none of the young guys have developed in Anaheim under Cronin, and if you just give him a new coach, how much could just a change of scenery help unlock him and overcoming some of the injury troubles? So yeah, I think that was a missed opportunity, not just by the Canucks though, but by a lot of teams around the NHL. Him going as cheaply as he did, I think, is an indictment on other teams that needed more top six help too.
Greg Cronin's Iowa Wild are 4-9 this year too. Not that we have to shit on Greg Cronin, but yeah, interesting. Okay, let's get to updates for tonight's game. It was over the weekend. Patrick Allvin talked and said Filip Chytil is back skating. Teddy Blueger, Demko, both week to week still. Yeah, Blueger back skating is the interesting one. That I would assume that means he's going to try to make a comeback. You know, we've expressed our concern for Filip Chytil, his long-term health before. I just hope I don't know, man. I don't even know what to say. Like, I want to respect his decision to come back, but man, like I can't shake the feeling of like worrying with how many injuries he's had to the head, that he's coming back to play such a high intensity sport again. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful this is the last time he has to deal with it.
Yeah, we were already nervous about one bad hit, and you're kind of bracing yourself. You're wincing a little bit to see if Chytil gets back up. I can only imagine the feeling that every Canucks observer, media fans, even people outside of Vancouver who are aware of Chytil's concussion history are going to have if and when he returns to the lineup at some point this year. It's going to be a little bit scary anytime he takes contact, and you're at least glad that from a personal health standpoint, he's healthy enough to even be skating, because sometimes concussions can impact your day-to-day life in such a huge way, where sometimes players that get severe ones, they can go months where they can't even go to, let's say, like I had this conversation with players before, not Chytil, but I talked to a player once who said he couldn't go into a mall because it was a sensory overload with all the lights and the people walking around. And so I'm at least glad that him skating is a sign of his personal life, that he's not like, it could be a lot worse is the point. But yeah, if and when he does eventually return to the lineup, we're all going to be a little bit nervous about, is he going to actually be able to stay healthy and not suffer another head injury?
All right, Canucks take on the Panthers tonight. Like we said, Yuri Patera starts in goal for the Canucks. No Connor Garland. He was injured after a fight that he had in the first period last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was similar to his last injury just a few weeks ago. He tried to play through it and then left after logging more shifts. So hopefully it's just a short absence for Connor Garland. I think post-game Foot said it wasn't too bad, or didn't seem too bad. And I think the vibe we're getting from what's being reported out of Florida today is that it's more of a, let's just rest. There's no need to push it. They've already got 3 of 4 points on this road trip. That's a pretty successful road trip if you ask me. So Connor Garland not in the lineup tonight. Kiefer Sherwood moves up. This is courtesy of Dan Murphy. Kiefer Sherwood moves up to skate on Elias Pettersson's wing. David Kampf makes his Canucks debut. We haven't even talked about that yet, that David Kampf. Canucks signed David Kampf. They won the sweepstakes, Harm. $1.1 million for the rest of the season. David Kampf joins the Vancouver Canucks. He is going to slot in, you would assume, as the second line center on this team. Wild sentence I didn't think I would be saying when we were talking about this team in early October, but here we are in mid-November. David Kampf Canucks second line center. He's going to take a ton of defensive zone draws, take that away from Elias Pettersson, hopefully open up EP40, who's been great this month, to get some more shifts in the offensive zone, some more favorable minutes, less matchup minutes, that sort of thing. And really, he should help the penalty kill as well.
Yeah, Camp's arrival for me, I'm not even really that intrigued to see what he looks like at 5-on-5 because you kind of know what he is. He's a low event, try to grind things down defensively, not give up a whole lot, while also being a bit of an offensive black hole kind of player. For me, I'm just excited at 5-on-5 to see what does Elias Pettersson look like now that he isn't going to have to take a ton of defensive zone starts every game. I'm also curious to see how Foote handles Camp from a matchup perspective. How quickly is he going to ramp Camp back up, because he hasn't played in the NHL this year. So even for, like, yeah, he's a veteran, but sometimes that jump can be difficult. So what exactly is Camp going to do matchups wise? And is it going to be a light switch effect where right from day one, Camp is going to shoulder a ton of responsibility at even strength? Or is it going to be more of a gradual process to work him in, and it's not so much going to be about, well, what does the deployment look night one that both Camp and Pettersson are in the lineup, but more maybe you get a better sense of it a couple weeks from now once Camp is up to speed and you can see where exactly he's at. So excited for that. And then obviously the penalty kill, right? The PK needs to be at a serviceable level for this team to have a chance to win hockey games. I agree with the point Wags made earlier when we had him on, that I don't think it's as simple as one penalty killing center in the lineup and everything's going to be fixed because of all the cross seam stuff they've been allowing. But you're at least hoping he can help, especially with winning draws and getting that initial clear, which makes a huge impact on special teams in particular. You win the initial draw, get the clear, it's an easy 20-30 seconds off the clock, and then on top of that, if you're good at denying entries, you could create a whole host of issues compared to if you lose that initial draw and the other teams set up right away. Or sometimes I feel like around the league, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play this year, it's been an interesting trend where I feel like a lot of teams are more dangerous off set offensive zone plays than ever before.
The chat right now is going nuts about John Beecher. Hit waivers today. 30th overall pick in 2019, 24 years old now, very low offensive ceiling. But S. Little Boston, our resident Boston Bruins / Canucks fan in the chat, said, no, not Beecher. That bums me out as a Bees fan. He's one of the best PK players. I see best PK player, I see center, and I say this guy's a Canuck by tomorrow.
We'll see. I'm curious to actually look at the PK data. I hadn't looked at the PK data. Beecher, look, if the Canucks hadn't signed Camp yet, this would have been an automatic claim.
Yeah.
You don't even think twice about it. Now that you have Camp in the fold and Bluger, you're assuming is going to return at some point. I wonder if you become a little redundant, and I understand you can waive Beecher again when Bluger comes back. I wanted to double check the PK numbers. They're decent. They're not spectacular. It looks like he's been more of a second unit guy because averages about a minute and a half per game. So don't think I wouldn't describe him as a PK ace or anything. I don't think if you claim him, he's going to rescue the PK. But overall, though, the book on Beecher is, he's a big body, 6'3". He skates fast. His skating ability is a major asset. And he's legit good on draws. Now, he is also a black hole offensively. He isn't very physical or mean, which is a little bit disappointing when you have a player of that size. And to me, when I've seen Beecher play, he's been fine defensively, but I've never thought of him as a high-end shutdown option. I've almost thought of Beecher as, imagine if Nils Amon was good on faceoffs. and we've had this conversation before of, if Nils Amon was good on faceoffs, he would be an NHL player because he's got size, he's fast, and even though he's not high end defensively, he's at least capable. The problem with Amon is he's a complete black hole offensively, and if You're a black hole offensively. The only role you can slot into is defensive specialist, and you cannot be a defensive specialist if you're a career 42% faceoff guy. So Beecher, the comp for me is maybe Nils Amon if he was good on faceoffs.
The comp is a guy who doesn't exist. I love that because it's a perfect way to put it too. It's a perfect way to put it. Jacob in our private chat pointed this out. Montreal lost 2 centers over the weekend. If Vancouver doesn't claim him, they will. Yeah, both Alex Newhook. Oh, did you see the Newhook injury? I was watching that game live.
Brutal.
That was really, really bad. Somehow we didn't talk about that last week. But Kirby's not as long, is he, Jacob? Like Kirby Dach's injury wasn't that bad, was it?
4 to 6 weeks. Or 4 to 6. Okay, I thought it was 6.
Yeah.
But still,
4 to 6. But Newhook is
over
like
months.
Newhook's
snapped
in half.
Yeah, like I think Newhook was 2 to 3 months. Like he's got his ankle is in pieces now.
4 months with a fractured ankle.
Well, also the injuries around the league, you're starting to feel the effects of the compressed schedule. I know Canucks fans are well aware, but around the whole league, obviously, now this isn't obviously related to the compressed schedule, but you had the Jack Hughes freak accident at a team dinner, and now he's going to be out for 8 weeks. But outside of that, yeah, Doughty, and then
you laugh. I'm not laughing at Jack Hughes' injury, and neither is Harmed. Let's make that clear. We're not laughing at that. It's just the way it was set up with, well, this obviously isn't about the compressed schedule. Go on.
And look at Tampa, for example. That's a great example of how many teams have been banged up. There was no Victor Hedman, no Anthony Cirelli, no Ryan McDonough, no Nick Paul, no Dominic James, who's quietly been a really good bottom 6 piece for them, no Pontus Holmberg, and Brandon Hagel was just returning to the lineup against the Canucks. So around the league, you're seeing a ton of teams hammered by injuries, and you just hope that it doesn't become worse, because you already have a league right now where with 32 teams, I just don't think there are enough good players to support 32 teams. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You look around at most teams' depth charts, even the good teams, you sometimes see the player that they have as their second line center. I mean, there are at least 10 to 15 teams that don't have a true second line center.
Yeah.
You look at most NHL blue lines, almost every team has a player in their top 4 that probably shouldn't be a top 4 defenseman. Or if it's not a 2C issue, they have a guy at 3C that's probably more of a 4th line center. And that's when everyone's healthy. And so now imagine what your product looks like when each team is missing 2 or 3 difference makers in their lineup. It just becomes watered down. And that's why I've had this conversation with some other execs around the league as well. That's what part of the reason why I'm against further expansion from this point. I know it'll happen because the financial incentives are too high. Yep, the owners want it. The PA will want it because it's more NHL jobs. But I think now you're really going to see, even with the 32 teams, the number of injuries we have, you're going to see some lineups where like, what is this? Look at I want to pull up the Leafs lineup today. The Leafs lineup, which, by the way, they're in danger of missing the playoffs.
They're in a bad spot. They have a worse record than the Canucks.
Yeah, and you look at their practice lines. I hope it's updated. Yeah. So they've got Nick Robertson playing top line left wing, who I know he's been playing decently, but this is a guy who previously couldn't even get into their lineup. You got Max Domi as a 2C. You got, I don't even know who this guy is, Jacob Killen. Probably butchered his name. As your third line,
there's no way I've ever heard of him.
As your third line center, they had to recall Easton Cowan. He's on their second line. You look at their back end. They've got Benoit on the second pair. Dakota Mermis, a third pair of Dakota Mermis and Troy Stetcher, because they're missing Tanev, and it's like, geez, like even the Leafs right now, no Austin Matthews, no Chris Tanev, no Nick Waugh, no Anthony Stolars, no Brandon Carlo. A lot of teams are in this position right now, and it's just watering down the product of the game right now. And the worst part is we're going to have even more regular season games starting next year.
Carm, I have a question for you. So, like, obviously, I agree 100%. Like, the talent doesn't seem to be conducive to this many teams, and they are going to expand, and it's going to make it worse. And with the rising cap, like you've talked on the show before about how Like some teams just aren't going to spend to the cap anymore. Like, is it just going to make the problem worse? Like, are we going to get to the point where the NHL is kind of like Major League Baseball, where there's only about 10 teams actually spending money trying to win every year because they can afford the top talent and other teams know they just don't have the talent to compete?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be as drastic as the MLB in terms of the difference between the haves and the have-nots. But I've spoken to both agents and who obviously represent the players, and then execs on the team side. Almost universally, they've said that the number of teams that are going to spend to the cap once it's well beyond 100 million, it's going to surprise some people how few teams do it. I mean, the prediction one exec gave me was 10 teams per year, 10-ish in future years. Not as soon as next season, but once it's like 118, 128, once you get into that kind of range with the cap, I think the point also was teams are going to have to be more strategic about and intentional about their window. Where one example that an agent kind of gave me was, well, maybe you'll have an ownership group that says you have $450 million to spend over the next 5 years with this core. How you spend that amount, and that 450 over 5 years is below the max cap per year. And the owner essentially could tell that management group, you can divvy up how you spend that money in each year however you want, but this is your long-term budget and you have to stay within it. And that's when a team might have to be intentional about, all right, this year we're not really contending for a cup. We have more rookie contracts. We can be, let's say, 10 to 15 million below the cap. And you do that for a couple of years, and then we're targeting years 3, 4, and 5 for when we're going to go all in on a cup. Now, that's not going to be consideration for teams like the Canadiens, the Leafs, the Rangers. You would hope not for the Vancouver Canucks, Bruins, Rangers. These teams aren't going to have any worries, but this is more for a team like the Ottawa Senators, for example. I wonder with the cap skyrocketing, are they going to be able to keep up spending-wise with a team like the Habs? So we'll see. It's a concern that a lot of people in the league have right now.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting how it kind of changes everything, really. There's going to be so many things that are just kind of caught in the crossfire that we don't even think about when it comes to this. Like, it's going to happen, and it's not even anything that we can sit here today and predict. It's just going to happen, and then we're going to react to what happens. All right. Anything else that either of you want to get to? Anything from the chat? I don't think there was anything else I wanted to read. Yeah, I think we're good. Oh, Brad asked about trying Reichel with EP40. Tyson Cole's been all over this as well. Said it on Rinkwide last night. I mean, I like the idea, but as long as Reichel's playing with superstars like McKenzie MacEachern, like Reichel led them in Corsi last night. His Corsi percentage was the highest on the team last night. So you'd hope that, more favorable matchups, less just overall responsibility, playing with the hot stick that is McKenzie MacEachern right now. I would not change that right now. And the Canucks aren't changing that right now. Garland's out of the lineup. If you're just joining us, little voice crack there. Kiefer Sherwood goes up to the top line. So the line should remain the same. Otherwise, Reichel stays in. And then, of course, David Kampf makes his debut. So interesting to note there. But yeah, I like the idea of Reichel, but just not right now. Like, keep him at center right now. Alvin even talked about that on the weekend, that they'd like to give him more of a look at center, or at least he thinks they should. Ultimately left it up to Adam Foote, but it seems like Adam Foote agrees because he played center yesterday. The ice time's down, but yeah, he's going to skate there again tonight, you would assume. So we'll see how long that can last.
Yeah, I want to see him get a look on the wing sooner rather than later, because yeah, he hasn't looked as outmatched now that he's playing further down the lineup. But I still think he's too small and not good enough defensively to hang at the center ice position. And I still think there's some upside there potentially when he's on the wing. So that's something that I would want to experiment with sooner rather than later if I'm Adam Foote in the Canucks.
All right. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. Just looking at the NHL slate tonight, man, this is going to be a must-watch game. You got a Canucks game at 4 o'clock. 7 o'clock, you got the Utah Mammoth versus the Anaheim Ducks. That literally, that's going to be a must-watch game. That's going to be a good one. Very, very close there. I don't think I can see anything. Wow, Canucks are plus 225 underdogs tonight. That's the long. Wow, that's wild. Okay. I'm not going to take that. I'm not doing that. But just point it out. Plus 225. What do we like? Let's go to the Edmonton Oilers. They're on the road. They are slight underdogs against the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to take that. Minus 160 against the Buffalo Sabres. Actually, should we take the Sabres there? I don't know. Did the Oilers figure it out tonight? No, we're taking Sabres. I'm going to the Sabres. Plus 135. Home underdogs. Protect this house. Buffalo Sabres. Home underdogs at plus 135 odds. We're hammering that. We're taking that. That is our Bet365 bet of the day. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Before we go, folks, fill out the Family Feud survey. We just posted it. It is in the episode description. Fill it out. We're going to play Family Feud on Thursday as always. But for now, we are going to sign off, and we will see you tomorrow. For my co-host Harman Dial, our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Wajelli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.